We have the example in the study guide with Germany and Poland, and it tells us that in Germany that a worker can produce 15 computers or 5 units of grain. So there's Germany's production possibilities. It also states that in Poland, that a worker in Poland can produce 4 computers or 4 units of grain. And there is the Poland production possibilities curve. Now, we have, it asks us a couple of questions. What does, well, let's see. Who has the absolute advantage? Germany, they can produce 15 computers, only 4 in Poland, so Germany has the absolute advantage in computers. Grain, Germany, they can produce 5, only 4 in Poland. So Germany has the absolute advantage in both computers and grain. However, trade turns on comparative advantage, not absolute advantage. So we're going to figure out who has the comparative advantage of each good. Let's start with grain. So we've got, if we're looking at what we want to do is find out the opportunity cost of producing a unit of grain. Okay, so the opportunity cost, let's see, a change in grain, divide that into a change of computers. Again, the reason we want grain in the denominator, because we want to find the opportunity cost of a unit of grain, of 1 unit of grain. If it's going to be 1 unit of grain, the denominator always becomes a 1. So we put that grain in the denominator. Okay, so if Germany wants to go from 0 out to 5 computers, then that would be a change of 5 units of grain. And what would they have to do to get those 5? They'd have to go from 15 down to 0 computers. So we know that 5 units of grain cost Germany 15 computers. But of course, we want to know what 1 unit of grain will cost. So we divide this through. The denominator becomes 1. And what we got there? Looks like we've got -3. -15 divided by 5. We're going to put 1 there in the denominator. 1 grain cost Germany 3 computers. Now let's do the same thing for Poland. Change in grain divided into change in computers. Well, if they want to go from 0 units to 4 units of grain, that's going to be a change in grain of 4. And that means that they're going to go from 4 down to 0 computers. A change of -4. So we know that in Poland, 4 grains cost them 4 computers. Divide that and we get -1. And we're going to add the 1 there in the denominator just to make it easy to compare. So we have 1 grain costs them 1 computer. So who has the lowest opportunity cost of producing grain? Well, in Poland, they only have to give up 1 computer for a unit of grain. In Germany, they have to give up 3 computers for a unit of grain. So Poland has the comparative advantage in producing grain. So I'm going to go ahead and circle that. Poland has the comparative advantage in grain. Now let's do Germany. Now, shortcut. Since we already have calculated the change in computers divided by the change in grain, all we have to do now is flip that over. Now we want to know what the opportunity cost of computers is. So now we want computers in the denominator. And this is just the reciprocal of this. We've already got that here. What's the reciprocal of 3 minus 3? Just flip it over. Equals 1/3. What's 1 divided by 3? 0.33. Okay, so let's speed up the process a little bit. We could go through the same lot reasoning, of course, but once we figure out 1, all we have to do is take the reciprocal. All right, so same thing over here. What's the reciprocal of 1? Well, that's pretty easy. It's just 1, so nothing changes there. Okay, so 1 computer in Germany costs 0.33 grain. 1 computer in Poland costs them 1 grain. So the lowest opportunity cost is 0.33. Germany has the comparative advantage in producing computers. And I will go ahead and circle that there so we can remember who's producing what. Let's now fill in the other points on the production possibilities curve. So what they're going to want us to do now is do a consumption possibilities, but we need the other points. So let's 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So in Germany, now this is the production possibility. I'm just filling in the other points on the production possibilities curve. There's 1 point. 1 unit of grain, or, 1 unit of grain. What do they have to give up to get 1 unit of grain in Germany? 3 computers. So this point is 15 minus 3, which is 12. So this is 1 point on the graph. 2. If they want 2, if they want 2 computers, they're going to have to give up 3 more units of grain. So 12 minus 3 is 9. Another yet another unit of grain. They'll have to give up 3 more units of computers. That's 6. 1 more grain causes them to go down to 3. And if they want all 5, if they want nothing but grain, they can trade away all their computers, and that would leave them with 0 computers. Okay, so those are the points on Germany's production possibilities. How about Poland? Okay. Well, we know that 1 grain costs them 1 computer. So And I know this is a little tedious. That means they have to go down from 4 to 3 computers for that first unit of grain. A second unit of grain, they're going to have to give up another computer, so they're going to go down to 2 computers. That third unit of grain can have to give up one more, that brings them down to 1. And if they do a fourth unit of grain, they're going to have to go down to 0 computers. So those are all the points along Poland's production possibilities. Now the question says, what if they settle on a price of 2 computers for 1 unit of grain? So this is it, the price. 1 unit of grain trades for 2 computers. So let's take a look at Germany's consumption possibilities. Now, we're assuming here, this is their consumption possibilities with trade, specialization, and exchange. Their consumption possibilities, if they are self-sufficient, if they just do their own thing without trade, their consumption possibilities is the same as their production possibilities. They are one and the same. Now we want to look at their consumption possibilities with specializing in producing computers, because that's the area of their comparative advantage. So they're going to produce nothing but computers, and if they want grain, they're going to trade computers away to Poland. So let's say they want 1 unit of grain. Well, they can buy that grain for 2 computers. So where does that leave them? They start with 15 computers. They trade away 2. That leaves them with 13, right? So they can have that point right there. If they want another unit of grain, that brings up to 2 units. They have to trade away 2 more computers, which puts them 13 minus 2 is 11. Puts them right there. If they want a third computer, if they want a third unit of grain, they'll trade away 2 more computers. So that's 11 minus 2 more. That's 9. It's that point right there. 1 more computer. Grain. Jeez. That's it. You have to be careful when you got 2 goods and all so forth. It's easy to mess up. So that 4th unit of grain means they're going to have to give away 2 more computers or trade away 2 more computers. So 9 minus 2 is 7. And the 5th computer, how many times I can do this? The 5th unit of grain is going to cost them 2 more computers. That brings them down to 5. And they have that point there. So here is their their consumption possibilities with specialization and exchange. Now let's take a look at Poland's consumption possibilities. Remember, they are going to be producing nothing but grain. So they're starting here with 4 units of grain. And if they want a computer, they can trade some grain for it. Now, this will be easier to do if we change the price in terms of how much a computer is. See, we know 1 grain is trading for 2 computers. Well, let's find out what the reciprocal of that will tell us how many computers how much computers will trade for. So let's flip that around. Well, that means we want G over C. We want to know what one computer trades for. And that is 1 over 2. So we're just taking the reciprocal. What's 1 divided by 2? 0.5. Okay. So one computer trades for 0.5 units of grain. So we're starting here with 4 units of grain, and Poland wants a computer. So they want to go from 0 to 1 computers. They need to trade a half a unit of grain. So they start out with 4, they go down a half, that's 3.5. So they can be right there. Okay, 3.5 and 1 unit of grain. If they want another computer, going up here to 2, they need to trade away another half unit of grain. That brings them down to 3 units of grain. There, this point. They can consume along that point if they want. And if they want another unit of grain, computers, a third one, they can get that by trading away another half unit of grain. That brings them down to 2.5. They can consume along that point. And if they want yet one more computer, they want 4 computers, they can get that by trading away another half unit of grain. That brings them down to 2. And they can end up consuming 4 computers and 2 units of grain. So this is their production possibilities. Now, I think there's a question in there, are they consuming outside their production possibilities? Yes, they certainly are consuming outside their production possibilities. Now there's another question. It says, what happens if the productivity in Poland doubles? So instead of producing 4 computers or 4 units of grain, they now can produce 8 computers or 8 units of grain. What happens there? Well, who has the absolute advantage now in computers? Well, Germany produces 15, Poland produces 8. Germany still has the absolute advantage in computers. However, Poland now has the absolute advantage in grain. They can produce 8, Germany 5. But nothing has changed with the comparative advantage. Because notice just the quick answer, notice that the slope of the curve has not changed. It just went from 4 to 8, 4 to 8. When Poland wants to increase its grain output from 0 to 8, they're going to give up 8 computers. So that's 8 divided by 8. Before it was 4 divided by 4, now it's 8 divided by 8. It still ends up being 1 grain costs 1 computer. So nothing has changed in terms of comparative advantage. However, for what it's worth, Poland now has the absolute advantage in grain. Now, so what else has changed for Poland? So the terms of trade hasn't changed, but something has changed in Poland. They're richer. Okay, they're wealthier. They have more choices. They have more grain to trade away for computers. So this is a kind of a look forward in the future chapter in the course. Standard of living depends on productivity. If you don't produce it, you don't have it. You don't have it to trade. You don't have it to consume. You don't have it to trade. So the key to standard of living is become more productive. And whatever happened, Poland's now more productive, and they are a wealthier nation. Now, the last question, or one of the questions towards the end, says, what if more realistically this is for 10 million workers instead of one worker? Nothing changes. The analysis doesn't change at all. All we do is we put a bunch of zeros. Okay, add as many zeros as you want. You know, it doesn't change anything. Add a bunch of zeros. Okay, so you add the zeros, and they all cancel out. And as far as the ratios go, here and here, nothing changes. All right, so that's why we can get away with a simplified analysis using simple numbers. It's because all those zeros cancel out, and it gives us the same solution.